Well, hey, welcome back to the Pursuit Podcast. We're really glad you're here. My name's James, and I'm joined by my lovely wife, Tacey, and we are really excited to talk today about one of the habits that's kind of foundational in our life, and I think good for anybody who wants to learn things and pursue things. But before we get into that, I want to talk about the habit that you're enjoying this week and learn more about it.
Yes. Okay, so the habit that I chose to talk about this week, it's very new yet, so I guess it's not really something that I'm super experienced in, but we are doing a solitude journey at church, and it's just a big group of us. So what I am doing is when I wake up in the morning, I come out, sit on the couch, quiet. I mean, all I can hear is like the furnace and the refrigerator running. Close my eyes and just sit in solitude. I don't really try to like think about anything, say anything. I don't even really pray. I just kind of sit and listen and wait. And it's been kind of fascinating. So
yeah, and
we'll
like what are
more about that later.
What are some of the things that like come to your mind when you're sitting in actual silence? Because you're practicing solitude and
Right.
something our society doesn't really like doing. I really like the phrase that we're never really we're all alone together. Yeah, I really liked that. So anyways,
I've been kind of surprised how I really thought that I would struggle a lot with my brain, just kind of trying to like go off on all these little rabbit holes and like coming back, okay, like I need to not think, stop thinking.
yeah,
And I've been pleasantly surprised that I really can just sit and be like, I can be still, truly. And I wouldn't have known that. I think I was just so fearful that I wouldn't have been able to do that.
Yeah.
So it's been a really good practice. I've only done it 3 times now, so
you're pursuing something new,
Yep.
and that's good.
So it's great.
It's the whole point of what we're doing.
And if you're local, I do believe that there is still time to catch up.
Sure. Yeah.
So come along, Grace Church, DeMott, look it up.
3 more
Connect at
weeks.
grace.org.
There's 3 more weeks. So what am I doing?
What are you doing?
Yeah, what am I doing?
What habits are you pursuing?
One of the habits that I'm doing this year, I've had this book for a while. I think I got it at like Goodwill or something like that. You know, every Midwesterner has to like say where they got their great find. It was like $1, but it's a 365-day devotional about different men in the Bible. Not that I think that, I mean, I'm sure there's 365 men in the Bible, but I think it repeats some of them. But it just kind of gives a few verses around a particular part of different men's stories in the Bible. And then sometimes it'll give just different stories throughout history or things like that to like kind of go with the reading. And then it talks just about, you know, what kind of man are you going to be, and just helping you. For instance, like it was talking about Daniel, and you know, Daniel going into prayer was against the law at that time, and Daniel still chose to do what he knew was right, and that was to pray. Whether he's going to get thrown in the lion's den or not, he chose to do what was right. And just as men, are we going to still stand up for what we know is right, regardless of what society tells us? So that's just one of the days I've read so far, and they're just short. They're like 1 page, but they've been really, really great.
Awesome.
Challenging.
Sometimes all you need is just a little bit to like really set the tone for
Yeah,
the day.
you don't need a whole lot, I think. And I think that's the different, you know, Jesus being the bread of life. Like it will sustain you for so long, you know. I love that. You need your daily bread. Literally.
It's good.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah.
So what's the habit we're talking about today? Just introduce it.
Reading.
Yeah.
We're talking about reading books, literature.
Literally
of
literature.
all sorts and kinds. We're not really focusing on a certain type because we both love reading nonfiction, novels, biographies, memoirs.
But it hasn't
the whole
always been
thing.
that way.
It has not always been that way.
But for you, probably more so.
Well, okay, so here, let's just get started,
Yeah,
shall we?
Just jump in. Just have at it.
I grew up in a household that has always prioritized books. My mom we had books in every single room in the household.
This is true.
Bathrooms, kitchens. I mean, there was books everywhere. And so I grew up knowing that books were a great way to learn, a great way to grow. If you needed to know something, you grab a book. But when I hit my teenage years, I stopped altogether. I got into a place where I was working a lot and just, filled that time with other things. Started watching more TV, all of those sorts of things. The devil. And so it wasn't until after we had our first that I started thinking. First child, yes. Sorry. I was like, man, it's been years now since I graduated high school, and I want a way to learn things. I had a desire to grow, and I've always been super passionate about ministry, but I also knew that going to seminary wasn't an option for me. So how do I grow? How do I learn stuff? And of course,
on your own,
books,
without going to conferences and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So books fell in my lap. I started choosing books, and I realized that I cannot get through nonfiction books very easily. I read them so slow. And so one of my friends, she reads a lot of novels, and I was like, hey, recommend some authors to me. So I started reading stories, a bunch of stories. Yeah. And I realized as I started reading novels that I could get through my nonfiction books so much easier because I started training my mind to pay attention to what I was reading. And stories really helped with that.
Yeah.
And now I am maybe borderline obsessed.
How many books did you read last year in 23 or 24?
Not like
yeah,
50.
But how many? Yeah, but that's still a lot. I mean, what's the average person read in a year? 2, if
maybe,
that?
Something like that.
10 pages, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to toot your own horn.
Definitely. Yeah.
Toot it.
Sure. When I'm with people, meeting new people, one of my first questions to ask is so do you like reading?
Yeah.
Just because it's a love that I have found, and I love talking about it with other people. And if you say no, I kind of judge you a little bit.
Yeah. We're helping people. We're supposed to help people. We're not judging you. Tacey is. I'm not.
I really am not judging you.
Yeah, but reading, I have found a new love for reading because that was not. I remember growing up reading. I remember 2 books distinctly in all of my educational career that I remember that I didn't exclusively use SparkNotes for, so I could pass the quizzes. One was Lord of the Flies, which is a great book. I don't remember who writes it, but a fantastic book. And then Ender's Game, which is it's sci-fi kind of book. They actually came out with a movie that's really, really good too. But I remember those 2 books. So when I wanted to start reading again, I was like, how do I do this? We were getting rid of a lot of things in our life as far other habits, not TV. We got rid of Wi-Fi, so we weren't streaming anything anymore. All that kind of stuff. So I wanted to get back into reading. Well, one of the things that I wanted to do was what do I like? And I was like, well, I'm really into Lord of the Rings and Hobbit, and I like those kind of books or movies anyways. So I was like, well, let me find something similar. So I actually started reading the Aragon series or the Inheritance Cycle, which are 700 plus page books. So wouldn't recommend starting with those, but it's what I did. Go big or go home, right? And I'm finally on the 4th book, but it was just it was so good to get back into it because it made my brain do the work of imagining what the story was going on. So it wasn't something I grew up with. It's something I've learned, and I've read books for work and stuff like that. A lot of leadership books. A
lot of leadership books.
Too many. It's ridiculous. But those books have been really helpful. But reading fiction books, or as I like to say, fake books, fiction is fake. I have to say that, or I don't remember.
Which is which.
Yeah, which is which. Those have been really, really great for me. I might not read too many of them every year, but they've been really helpful, and they've been entertaining as well.
I think there's a little bit of guilt, especially as an adult, to get lost in a novel, because I think depending on where you're at in life or your career, if you're not reading nonfiction, why would you spend time? Why would you waste your time on a novel? But I think stories are so fun. They are important. We watch stories, so why can't we read them?
Yeah.
And not to like make this spiritual or anything, but I do believe that like stories are important to the Lord. Like Jesus was constantly
stories.
telling stories,
He
telling
told
parables. And so, yeah, I think the art of telling a really good story is an amazing God-given gift.
It is. You know, I was thinking, as you're like saying this, I was thinking about what actually, I think the first book I actually started reading again, yes, the Aragon series was like my first fiction one, but I'm really like, I love history. Like I'm a big history nerd. And like, if you've noticed that, like the last few times I've preached, like I think I've brought up World War II, like the last like 3 times, like I love history. I think the first book I actually read was that biography of Ulysses S. Grant.
Oh my goodness. I just remembered.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. You got that at Goodwill too.
I got that at Goodwill too.
It was huge.
It was
I think,
thick. It was pretty
600
thick.
I don't know if you read the whole thing though, did you?
No, I got about. You don't really need to on him, but like it's fine. He is
Halfway
on.
through,
He is
you've
on the
heard of
$50 bill. I found that out today. You know, everyone always talks about Benjamins, like he's on the 100, but no one talks about grants. No one's like, give me a grant. You know, and it's $50. That's good.
That's pretty good.
Really good.
2 grants. You know?
2 grants. You got a Benjamin. He was not a great president, but one of my
But maybe you learned that through the book.
Yeah, I did. I did learn that through the book.
There you go.
He was a great war hero, but yeah, he drank a lot.
Well,
And he was president. So, I mean, that's pretty, you know, there's only 47 of them. So he joined an exclusive club. That's for sure. Anyways, that's totally derailing everything that.
did you have an end there?
No, I just remember like you got to, again, finding something that you're into.
Oh, sure.
So if you're into
That's
history,
fair, you're
like,
fine.
you know, read an autobiography or a biography of some historical figure or whatever.
Finding what
Like
you're interested in.
there's so many things. And I think that's like this just goes back to the whole culture thing of like, we love being spoon-fed information, but like we don't retain anything. Like our retaining factor in our brain is just absolute garbage. Like it's just so bad. But when you read it, you do retain a lot more of it. And you're like being creative, especially with the fiction books or fake books. You really do use your brain to like fill in the
Yes.
gaps of like, what, we were just having this conversation. Like, do you imagine the room around you and what that looks like for
In
the characters and the
color or
colors
stick
or detailed? Like,
figures.
can you see the different candles on the wall and all that kind of stuff? It really does help you. I think it helps you become a better storyteller, like all around.
And a better listener, I think, too.
Totally.
I really do think reading helps our attention span grow. Just kind of what you were saying. I know, like, when I watch movies a lot, coming off of watching a lot of shows into reading, my attention span was, like, shot. I could not stay captivated almost. And even listening to podcasts and audiobooks, it was, like, not enough stimulation for me to stay on track with what it was talking about. I needed
Well, I mean, how many
more
times did we find ourselves like
stimulation.
watching a TV show or whatever, scrolling our phones still? Like, it's just so, like, we're so distracted. But when you're reading a book, you're reading a book.
Right.
And even, I don't know, you don't read on your phone as much now as you used to.
Still do.
You still do. But,
I'm
like,
trying to
you have the Kindle app, like, and you can read it anywhere. And I still think physical copy books are great, but I still have the Libby app on my iPad and on my phone because sometimes I just don't have the physical book. But if you're waiting for your tires to get changed or whatever, and like, are you going to scroll Instagram or do you want to read a book really quick? Like,
yeah, that's why I put
the
those on my
convenience of it.
phone. There is some really interesting studies out there that compare your brain retention to reading on tech devices versus reading actual like newspaper page or from a book, and they retained so much more from a real life book versus technology because you read it so fast when you're reading it on your phone. You can read it really quick, which is a great thing, and I like that too because I can whiz through books when I'm reading it on
But you're
my
still
phone.
on your phone.
But I don't. At the end of the book, I'm like, I don't really remember what that was about.
Yeah.
It was enjoyable, but that's about it.
Yeah, and like one of the other times that we read a lot is at night after our kids go to bed, just because we're in that season of life. But I think no matter what season of life you're in, it really does help you calm down for the night. Again, if you're not reading if you're not reading on your phone too, it also does let you put away your devices and all that kind of stuff and not be distracted and all that kind of stuff. And you fall asleep so much faster after reading.
I actually
fall
have
asleep
read
really, really
a
fast.
study about how reading at night helps set your circadian rhythm. I don't know where I found that. I'll have to see if I can find it. But it was really interesting how like it helped your body be more in cycle with light and darkness and stuff.
And it
Very fascinating.
And I just think it's a good habit to have. It's one of I have 6 habits on my habit tracker on my phone. I will promote this till I die because I think it's just the greatest thing ever. There's
beside the brushing the teeth.
Yeah, right next to brushing the teeth, it says read 10 pages every day.
Do you do that while you're brushing your teeth?
No, that's hard. I could, I guess, but I don't want to. But it helps. It helps know that I did it. And if you read 10 pages a day, 365 days, you read 3,650
Okay.
pages. And that's a lot of books. That's like 10 books.
Yeah.
It's like 10 books a year. And you're killing the average.
There you go.
You're bringing the average up.
That's right.
And it's 10 pages. It doesn't, what do you read, a page a minute?
Probably.
It doesn't take that long. It really doesn't. And you feel better having done it.
It's true. There is such a sense of accomplishment when you finish a book or even finish a chapter. Like, it really is a dopamine hit of like, wow, like I did something productive. I did something that's going to carry through for the next several days, weeks, months. I'm going to remember this.
When I got through that first 700-page book, I was pretty proud of myself. Pretty proud of myself. Some advice. I don't know if you're wanting to make reading a habit.
Yeah.
Can I give a tip? And then
absolutely. Let's just share our tips.
Sure. Tips for starting to read.
Yeah, making reading easier. Actually, can I start?
Go ahead.
Okay. I want to start with the first one. What was your first one going to be?
No, go ahead.
Okay, first one is practicing. Because I was just telling James about this. I was just telling you about this.
Me.
When Elliot he's 5, almost 5, and he complains a lot. He's in that time of life where if we ask him to do something, he's complaining. He doesn't want to do hard things, and he's always saying, "That's too hard."
He's like the moody golden retriever that just got like his toy taken away.
Yeah.
Love him.
And so we are constantly telling him, what do we do with hard things? We do them more. Doing hard things gets easier.
Because what's one of our values as family? We do hard things. We do hard things.
We do hard things. And so reading for a lot of us is so hard. And I totally get it. Sometimes it might feel like we're not into reading, but maybe it's just because starting is too hard. And so start somewhere, even if you're reading like Pippi Longstockings. These tiny little kids, these tiny little
out of
kids
all the
books.
books, you picked Pippi Longstockings.
I just got it out of the box. That's why I was thinking of it. But magic. It's literally like 30 pages long, and it's still a story. And so training your brain, practicing, train your brain to have a longer attention span. It really is going to take practice.
Yeah. And we want our kids to read, and like we're just modeling what we want them to do.
For sure.
To be lifelong learners. I think whatever the modern education system does not teach you to be a lifelong learner. It teaches you how to take a test.
For sure.
And I think reading is a skill that no one can take away from you. Just unless something terrible happens to you. But like you can read the rest of your life, and instead of reading to take a quiz or a test, where I think it almost like it makes you not want to read. Like I remember not wanting to read because I knew I was gonna have to take a test on it. For sure. But now that I read, not having to take a test, I love it.
Yeah, nothing hinges on it anymore.
No, nothing hinges on it other than my own entertainment. It's like it's for me.
Yeah.
But that goes into my tip of like, we were just having this conversation with a friend, who was like, his girlfriend reads a lot, but he's like, I want to get into it, and how do I do that? And he picked a book of a movie that he's already seen. And like that's a great like way to start. Like he picked The Hobbit to read the book The Hobbit because he loves the movies.
Sure.
And I think it's just a great place to start. Again, for me, Ender's Game was one of those. I loved the movie, and reading the book in school. I remember it, and it made me love the movie that much more. Everyone's like, oh, the books are always better, and movies, blah blah blah. Whatever. I don't really care. But it at least gives your brain like a point of reference to like imagine it. It helps. It's like a crutch a little bit. It just helps you kind of get along until you can read a book that you haven't seen the movie for. Sure. And then you're like, oh, like I can think of this stuff on my own.
Yeah, that's really good.
So what are your other tips?
Well, we already talked about it, and this kind of goes along with what you were saying, but reading novels alongside of nonfiction. I think reading nonfiction is a great way to learn and grow. You
Totally.
know, it's a staple. You know, there's a lot of great books out there. But like we were talking about, our attention spans have just gone to the wayside.
Yes.
So grabbing a novel and reading it along with it really trains your brain to say like, okay, I can focus on what these words are saying.
I used to always make fun of my aunt for reading like the beach novels, like the one, all the time. Sorry, Aunt Jenny.
At least
Love
it's
you.
not Amish novels.
Yeah, Amish novels. No, it was always like the romance, whatever like the little $2 one at like Walgreens was, like as you're getting your sunscreen.
Gas station.
Oh yeah, gas station reads. That's what my aunt would get.
Another one, and this is debatable in some circles, but I do love a good audiobook.
It's like a glorified podcast.
It is, but I also think it does teach your brain to stay on track as well.
Totally.
And so I'm here to say audiobooks count. They count.
I'm not going to fight
books.
on it.
Yeah.
You know, one of my people make fun of me for this. Especially for nonfiction books, I will read the book, especially if it's like something I want to get through quickly, but I want to like really understand it. I will have the physical book in front of me or on my iPad, whatever. And then I will listen to it on audiobook too.
Do you want me to just read it to you?
No, it's terrible. But like there's something about it. I am like an auditory learner, through and through. Like I could sit in my college classes and like not pay attention at all and be playing Candy Crush, and still do really well on the test because I was just hearing what the professor was saying.
Sure.
And that was fine. But there are some things that seeing it and hearing it at the same time and then having like a separate pad of paper to journal or, write tips or whatever.
No, I
is
totally
really
think that's true because I even think about when I am sitting in church on a Sunday morning and if I forget my Bible, the pastor reads the scripture and it kind of just flies over my head. But if I have my Bible in front of me and I'm reading it the same time that he's speaking it, it
You're like,
sticks.
oh, I get it.
Yeah. And I can comprehend it so much more.
And that's good.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
I think that's all I had.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Grab a book.
book.
And like we said earlier, each person is going to have their own interest. And there is so many books. I'm sure you can find a book that is interesting to you, even if it takes you a whole year to get through one book. That's an accomplishment.
Like I like reading about dragons.
You like reading about dragons.
Yep.
And Harry Potter.
And you like reading
All of it.
all of it.
There's not much that I don't like to read.
Yeah. Well, anyways, thanks for following along.
Yeah.
Hope to see you guys next week.
Let us know what books you're reading.
Yeah.
Bye.